Okay, so I'm starting this design out by inserting the container component from my rough draft. I feel like this is detailed enough for our design, and we don't really need to go in depth on the actual dimensions of the container. So what I have here is a 20 by 8 by 9.5 foot container. And now let's start the rails. So let's create the sketch for our modular wall rails. Okay, so here I've got a simple sketch. This sketch represents the pallet board rail that I will be using for the modular walls. So here I would have the first board and the second one. I'd connect these two boards using a right-angled bracket. Okay, so with this sketch, I'll demonstrate to you some ways sketch constraints can be used to improve your designs. Essentially, sketch constraints are tools that can be used to make sure sketches do not break when specific features of a sketch are modified. So, for example, I'm going to move this line slightly to the right. As you can see, I've now broken this sketch. It will not return back to the original shape. So, let's see how we can use some constraints to avoid this. First, let's use a horizontal and vertical constraint. This constraint constrains a single line or 2 points to lie on either the vertical or horizontal axis. So, for example, this line can be constrained to the vertical axis. So I'll use the constraint and it's been constrained to the vertical axis. So let's do this line as well. Now it's on the vertical axis. And we can do this one to the horizontal axis. Okay, so here we have our original shape. Okay, so here we've got the coincident constraint. So in this sketch, I want to try to move this line over here to create a new profile. So let's try to use the coincident constraint to do that. So I'll click on coincident, and I'll click on this point here and this point on the triangle. So there we've moved that line to this area so we can make a new profile. Let's try to use the tangent constraint now. So with the tangent constraint, we can use a line to create a tangent line with this circle. So I'll click on tangent constraint and I'll click on this line to make it tangent with this circle. So here we have a tangent line. Now we can do it with this line to create a tangent line and this line to create another tangent line. So here we have our original shape. Okay, now we can talk about the equal constraint. The equal constraint is used when you want to make objects similar sizes. So, for example, we can use the equal constraint to make this line equal to this line, and this circle equal to this circle. So now you can see this line is equal to this line, and this circle is equal to this circle. So we have our new profiles. So let's move on to the parallel constraint. Here you can see a shape where there's one line that is horizontal and another line that is at an angle. So we can use the parallel constraint to make this line parallel to this line. And then we can use the equal constraint to make this circle equal to this one. So here we have our profile. So now let's use a perpendicular constraint. The perpendicular constraint can be used to make two lines perpendicular. So, for example, let's make this line and this line perpendicular, and let's make this line and this line perpendicular, and let's make this line and this line perpendicular, and then this one and this one perpendicular. Finally, we have this one and this one. So here we have our original shape. So now let's use the fix and unfix constraint. We can use the fix constraint to fix any line or object to their original spot. So for example, we can fix this line, and this line, and now we can freely move these lines without interfering with the other ones. So I've set up a checkpoint where we can start using constraints simultaneously. I'll introduce one more constraint, the midpoint constraint. This constraint constrains a point or object to the midpoint of another object. So for example, here I'll use the midpoint constraint to move this line to the midpoint of this line. And here we have our two lines. So now I'll use the equal constraint to make this line equal to this one. And then I'll start drawing some circles randomly. Here we can use the equal constraint again to make this circle equal to this circle equal to this one, and this circle equal to this one. Now I'll start drawing some lines. So now we can use the tangent constraint to make all these lines tangent lines. So I'll start here, and I'll make this line tangent with this line, and this line tangent with this circle. This line tangent with this circle, this line tangent with this circle. This line tangent with this circle, and there's already a tangent constraint already automatically applied. So I'll make this line tangent to this circle, and this line tangent to this circle. So here we have our new shape. Okay, so here I have the concentric constraint. This constraint constrains two or more arcs, circles, or ellipses to the same center point. So for example, I can use the concentric constraint to constrain this circle to the center point of this arc. And I can also use it to constrain this arc to the center point of this arc. So here we have our new shape. Okay, so here I have the collinear constraint. This constraint constrains two or more objects so that they share a common line. So here I have my broken shape again, and I'll click this line and this line so they share the same line, and I'll click this line and this line so that they share the same line. And here I have my original rail. Okay, so here I have the symmetry constraint. This constraint allows us to make two or more objects symmetrical across a common axis. So, for example, let's make this line and this line symmetrical across this common axis. And then we can make this line and this line symmetrical across this common axis. This curve and this curve symmetrical. And this arc symmetrical. So here we have our symmetrical drawing. Lastly, we have the curvature constraint. This constraint allows you to constrain two or more objects to create a smooth and continuous curve. So we can select this curvature constraint and select this arc and this spline to create smooth curves between them. This allows for more organic and more continuous shapes. Okay, so now that we've finished the sketch, we can extrude it and create our rail. So I'll select both profiles here, here, and here, and I'll select extrude, and I'll select the to object extent type, and then I'll select this profile. I want to make these new bodies so that we can mirror these on each corner. So I'll select OK, and now to mirror I will make a midplane between this profile and this profile. Select OK, and now let me mirror, but before I mirror, let me change the appearance. So what I'll do is I'll search for wood, because this would be made out of pallet wood. So let's use, I think I'll use oak. So let me apply it to this body. Okay. And now we can mirror. So I'll select bodies, this body, and I'll mirror across the midplane. I'll select OK, and now we can mirror across the origin plane. So let me select this body and this body, and this this container is in the middle of the origin, so I'll just select the origin plane and I'll select OK. So here we have the base for our container house.